Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my book review of the book Empty Smiles by Katherine Arden, the final book in the Small Spaces Quartet. I started reading this tetralogy last year, started in the summer, continued on into the fall a little bit, and I read the first three books. I read Small Spaces, which I really enjoyed. I read Dead Voices, which I also really enjoyed. And then I read Dark Waters. And Dark Waters was my least favorite of the three, but I still enjoyed it. And so I thought that, I'd read Katherine Arden's adult novels she had written before as well, her Winter Night trilogy. And so I wanted to complete the set and read the final book. I just didn't have it. And then in December of this year, I was visiting some family down in Florida, and at the bookstore at the Barnes & Noble, they actually had a copy of Empty Smiles. And so I went and picked it up in person, and I got it so I could read it and finish the set. I like to be able to 100%. It's like a video gamer likes to 100% a video game. I like to 100% a series. So I was like, I have 3 of the 4 books read. It will take me like no time at all. I literally read this in about 2.5 hours one morning this week. I just sat down, breezed through it. So this is a really short book. All the books are that short, and it's a fun read. Each book has had a different seasonal theme. The first book, Small Spaces, was a fall theme. You got the pumpkins, you got the scarecrows, all that stuff. The second book, Dead Voices, was a winter theme. You got snow, you got skiing, you've got ghosts and a little bit, and then Dark Waters, the third book, was a spring theme. You've got like they're going out on the fishing, and they're everything's kind of green, and it really felt atmospherically like a spring book. It felt like we were reading a book while they were on their spring break. And then we have Empty Smiles, which, if you've been paying attention, means that it has to be a summer book. And absolutely, from the first chapters, Katherine Arden absolutely nails the weather. She nails the atmosphere. And that is, as I've noticed from not only this tetralogy, but also her adult books, her strongest element as a writer is atmosphere. If you want atmospheric writing, read Katherine Arden's works, because she gets how to write an atmosphere. It's summertime. The kids are splashing around in the pool. They're supposed to be having fun. They're going and going to a carnival and spending time outside with their parents, and you just feel like you're in summertime. It also helped that I read this book during the summer. And so I felt the summertime in this series. And again, this is really short. So there's an economy of words that Katherine Arden has to work with to get the atmosphere right, and she does. Getting towards the other parts of the book, the plot and the characters, this whole series has dealt with a villain named the Smiling Man, who can take many forms, and but he's always recognized by his smile. And he is a excellent villain in this whole tetralogy, and he is just scary, and he's powerful, and you don't understand his power, but you know it's there. And in this book, he has some horrific elements to his power. What you see in this book with what he does with the people that he imprisons in his carnival is truly horrific. And for a kid's book, I'm surprised that she did it, because it's not like kids are going to go home wetting the bed screaming after reading this book. But it is sufficiently scary that I think kids like a 10-year-old or 12-year-old who reads this book will be excited that they have something scary to read, but it's not going to mess them up. It's not like a kid reading It or something like that, maybe. But a 10 or a 12-year-old, that is the perfect age to read this, I think. And so she does a good job with writing that. The characters feel very much the same. There are a couple of criticisms I have of the book, though, and they're actually pretty major criticisms. One of the criticisms I have of this book is that Katherine Arden has 2 different directions for the book to take, and in the first portion of the book, she's going in one direction, and in the second portion of the book, she's goes in the literal opposite direction. And honestly, I would have been totally fine with either version, but because she splits it up, it feels uneven. It feels like she didn't have it properly paced out, properly decided from the beginning of the book. It felt like she wanted to have it both ways, and it would have been so much better if she just picked the one or picked the other and stuck with it. And going into that a little bit, this isn't spoilers, but this is like context things. Throughout this whole book series, the kids have been in these dangerous situations. The parents know literally nothing. The parents have no idea. In the first book, there was a bit of like, the parents know something weird happened, but they don't know what exactly, but the kids know exactly what happened. And then in books 2 and 3, the parents are pretty much oblivious. And in the third book, one of the parents' mind is literally wiped. So the parent doesn't remember anything from the events. In this book, there is a conscious decision to have the kids reveal everything to the parents and to bring the parents along. And I, for one, loved that. I was like, this is a great new way to explore a new theme in this series. Previously, it's always been the adults have no idea. We're scared that if we tell the adults, they won't believe us. And we're scared that if the adults don't believe us, we won't be able to solve the problem. And so the kids don't say anything. But in this book, it is impossible for us to do it on our own. We are going to tell the adults. And I think as an adult, that is really good because oftentimes kids need the guidance of parents. And so I was really happy to see the kids finally confide in their parents. And of course, they're talking about killer clowns and scary carnival stuff and kids getting kidnapped and all this stuff and minds being wiped and stuff. And so the parents naturally are like, are you crazy? But, the parents listen to the kids. And the parents actually start working with the kids at one point. And I was like, yes, Katherine Arden is going in this direction. This is a great way to explore those themes of trusting your parents and parents knowing what's best for you and communication being key and family relationships, things like that. I thought it was great. Then towards the end of the book, it's like 70 to 80% of the way through the book, there's like a hairpin turn and something happens and the kids go off to solve the problem on their own. And the parents are literally not involved. The parents have no knowledge of what's going on. And I just thought that in and of itself returns the series' tonality to the tone of the first 3 books. So that ending portion of the book, the last like 20-30% of the book, fits the series themes. But because it just was in opposite contrast to what the book had been setting up with the parents, it felt so out of place. It felt so odd. And honestly, I mean, I wouldn't have loved if the kids had just kept the parents out of the loop the whole book, but from a narrative perspective, I would have understood it, and I would have gone along with it, and it wouldn't have taken away points on the book. And if they had stayed with the parents, I would have understood it, and I would have gone along with it. I would have loved it if they'd stayed with the parents. But because there's this divide of it just switching partway through, I was like, and it didn't have enough time for the kids to realize the parents can't help. It didn't give enough time for the kids to say, oh, well, we want to protect the parents again or something. It just, well, nope, the kids have to go solve the problem. And I just felt that was a problem with the book. My second problem with the book comes with the ending. The ending is satisfactory in the way that it wraps up the immediate story of this book and part of the story of the series. However, it leaves a lot of stuff to be assumed, and I don't think it properly wraps it up. This book was only about 204 pages. I think, and the other books, the first 2 books were like 220 pages, and then the third book was like right at 200. So these 2 books are the shorter ones, these 2 are longer, but again, it's like 20 pages difference between these. But my point is that Katherine Arden could have added perhaps 10 or 15 pages and cleared up a couple of minor subplots that had to do with some of the characters in the carnival. I won't go through who they are, but if you've read the book, the characters in the carnival, something happens to them, what happens to them? That's one. The second thing that the book needs to wrap up is with Ollie's mother. It is established earlier on in the series basically what happens to Ollie's mother, and it's never fully addressed. And then the third thing is, I just didn't connect with the thing between Ollie and Coco with them potentially becoming siblings because of the parents. I needed just a little bit more from the parents. I just needed just a little bit more from them. just a little. And so the ending I felt was rushed. I felt that the ending just came, like, we got to the climax and the denouement of the story, and then boom, it's over. Like, literally, I was reading the last few pages and I was like, that's it? Like, what? Like, it ended that quickly? The denouement is ridiculously fast in this book. From when the moment the climax ends and the moment the denouement, it's like a couple of pages. And I'm like, you cannot wrap up a tetralogy in just like 5 pages. Like, you need a little bit more. You need just a little bit more. So I thought that was a problem. So again, I had the narrative problems, but at the same time, atmosphere, great. Characters, I felt like I understood Ollie. Ollie's fear in this book I thought was terrific, and her resilience was good. I liked Coco and Brian and Phil kind of feeling a little bit scared about how to deal things with their parents and with all the kidnappings going on. And I thought that Phil kind of feeling like he's filling in for Ollie, I thought that was really well written. So there were some great parts there too. And also the first chapter, I think there's if I'm remembering right, there's a prologue. There's a prologue. And then the first chapter is written from the parents' perspective mostly. Thought that was a terrific first chapter. That is how you write a first chapter. So I really liked the beginning of the book. So that is my general review of Empty Smiles. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10, which is about what I gave Dark Waters, if I remember. So I think these books aren't quite as good as the first two. The whole series as a whole gets like a 7 or 8 out of 10. Like, I enjoyed reading this middle grade series, this tetralogy. It was enjoyable. It is not a favorite series of mine, but it was enjoyable. I'm glad I read it. I'm expanding not only into middle grade, but into horror, and I'm trying other things out. And I have a little quick story here at the end. I read the first 100 pages, and I was tired when I did it that morning, so I took a short nap, and then I read the next 100 pages. But during that nap, I actually had a bad dream, and I wonder, did I have the bad dream because I was reading the book, or was it just coincidental? Anyway, it had nothing to do with the plot of the book. The bad dream was something else, but I was like, was my subconscious prepared for a bad dream, a nightmare? Anyway, I give this a 7 out of 10, really enjoyed it. I saw some people hating on this cover. I think this is a sufficiently scary cover. It evokes the horror elements of it, but it also seems kind of juvenile in the writing style. So if you've read Empty Smiles, let me know your thoughts on this and the whole series as a whole, and do you have other middle grade books that you'd recommend and other middle grade horror that you recommend? Or and if you've read other Katherine Arden books, what'd you think of her Winter Night trilogy? Leave all those thoughts in the comments down below. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.